The hospital's ceiling tiles blurred above me as I blinked awake. Everything hurt, my body, my heart, my soul. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly, and somewhere down the hall, a machine beeped steadily. I turned my head slowly, expecting to see someone beside me. Anyone. The chair next to my bed sat empty. A nurse with kind eyes and graying hair stepped into the room. She checked my four, then glanced at the empty chair. Her expression shifted, not pity exactly, but concern. She touched my shoulder gently. "Honey, don't you have any family or friends?" she asked softly. "You've been here alone for hours. Since the surgery." My throat tightened. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to tell her about my husband, my sister, my mom. But the words caught somewhere between my chest and my mouth. "My husband," I whispered. She waited, her hands still warm on my shoulder. "He must be working," I finished weakly. But deep down, I knew the truth. I'd called him 3 times before the ambulance came. He never answered. And when I checked my phone earlier with shaking hands, I saw it. He'd removed himself as my emergency contact 2 days ago. 2 days before I lost our baby. The Uber driver didn't ask questions when he picked me up from the hospital. I was grateful for that. I clutched the discharge papers in my lap, staring at words I couldn't process: spontaneous abortion, complete miscarriage, follow-up in 2 weeks. Our apartment building looked the same as always. Red brick, black shutters, the crooked mailbox we always meant to fix. But everything felt different now. I felt different, hollowed out, like someone had scooped away everything essential and left just the shell. I fumbled with my keys at the door. Inside, I heard the television playing. Marcus sat on our couch, phone in hand, barely glancing up when I walked in. His hair was still wet from the shower. He'd obviously been home all day. "Hey," he said casually, like I'd just come back from the grocery store. I stood there, hospital bracelet still on my wrist, moving slowly because my body screamed with every step. "I lost the baby," I said. My voice sounded strange, flat, empty. He finally looked up. "Yeah, I know. It was early though. Don't make it into something it's not." Then he went back to scrolling. I called my best friend, Amy, from the bathroom floor that night. My hands shook as I dialed. "Oh my God, Bella, I had no idea you were even pregnant." Her voice cracked with genuine shock. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I did," I whispered. "I told you 2 months ago. At that coffee shop, remember? You said congratulations." Silence stretched between us. "Bella, we haven't had coffee in 4 months. And you never mentioned a baby." My brain felt foggy. Had I imagined that conversation? No. I remembered her smile, remembered her hugging me, remembered ordering decaf because of the pregnancy. "Did Marcus tell you not to say anything?" I asked. "I haven't talked to Marcus in forever. He never answers when I text asking about you." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. That's when I remembered, Marcus always handled my phone when friends called. He'd answer with, "She's sleeping," or, "She's not feeling well." I thought he was being protective. Now I wondered what else he'd told them. What else he'd kept from me. My sister Victoria picked up on the 5th ring. Background noise suggested she was at a restaurant or bar. "Make it quick, Bella. I'm out with friends." "Vic, I lost the baby." My voice broke. I was in the hospital alone and "What baby?" She sounded genuinely confused. "I was pregnant. 14 weeks. I had a miscarriage yesterday." A long pause. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted, defensive, almost angry. "Diane said you were going through another emotional phase. She told Mom and me not to feed into it because you've been, attention-seeking lately." "Diane. My mother-in-law. Attention-seeking?" I repeated numbly. Look, I can't keep doing this every time you have a crisis. It's exhausting. Diane said you do this, create drama when Marcus gets busy with work. My chest tightened. She said that? Multiple times. She's really worried about you. About both of you. Victoria sighed heavily. I've got to go. Maybe call your therapist or something. I don't have a therapist. Well, maybe you should get one. She hung up. I sat staring at my phone, trying to understand. When had Victoria started talking to Diane regularly? When had my mother-in-law become the source of information about my life? I called my mom the next morning. My hands shook as I pressed her contact. Hi, sweetheart, she answered warmly. How are you? Mom, I lost a baby. I had a miscarriage 2 days ago and nobody. Oh, honey. Her warmth evaporated. Diane mentioned you might call with something like this. My blood went cold. What do you mean? She called me last week. She's worried about you, Bella. She said you've been having these episodes where you imagine things or exaggerate situations for sympathy. Mom's voice got quieter. She said it's been happening more frequently and that Marcus is at his breaking point. I was pregnant, Mom. I have hospital records. Discharge papers. Are you sure you didn't misunderstand something? Maybe it was a heavy period and your anxiety. My anxiety? I couldn't breathe. Mom, I had surgery. There was a baby. Our baby. Sweetheart, Diane said you'd say things like this. She warned us this might happen. She thinks you're exhausted and need rest. Maybe some medication. I hung up before she could finish. I didn't eat for 3 days. Marcus noticed but said nothing. On the 4th day, I found my courage somewhere beneath the grief and betrayal. We need to go to counseling, I said. Please, Marcus. Something's really wrong with us. He looked up from his laptop like I'd suggested something absurd. I can't keep doing this, he said. You're draining me, Bella. Every day it's something new. Some emergency. Some crisis. He closed his laptop slowly. Even my mom says so. She's worried about my stress levels. Your stress levels? My voice rose. I just lost our baby in you. It wasn't really a baby yet, he interrupted. You're being dramatic. It's this emotional thing you do. You turn normal situations into catastrophes. Normal situations? I had a miscarriage. And you've been milking it ever since. He stood, grabbing his keys. I need space. You're suffocating me. He left. I heard his car start in the driveway. That's when I saw his laptop, still open on the table. A notification popped up, a group chat called Managing B. My hands moved before my brain could stop them. I clicked. The chat was between Marcus and Diane. Hundreds of messages. All about me. The messages went back 3 years. Diane, she's being clingy again. Crying about nothing. Marcus, I know. It's exhausting. Diane, you're a saint for putting up with this. Marcus, some days I don't know if I can. They discuss me like a problem to solve. A burden to manage. There were jokes about my episodes, mockery of things I'd told Marcus in confidence, detailed plans for how to handle me during family gatherings. One message from 6 months ago made my stomach drop. Maybe if we ice her out slowly, she'll understand she doesn't fit. Then the separation will be her idea. My phone rang. It was Amy. Bella, what the hell is going on? She sounded upset. I just ran into Diane at the mall. She told me you had some kind of breakdown and that Marcus asked friends to give you space. That's not true. She seemed really concerned. She said you've been unstable since losing a baby nobody knew about, and that you might reach out with wild stories. Amy paused. Is that what this is? Amy, I'm telling the truth. Diane said you'd say that too. I forced myself to attend Victoria's birthday party that weekend. She'd posted about it on social media. Somehow I was still invited, even if it felt like an afterthought. The moment I walked into the restaurant's private room, conversation stopped. Everyone stared. Then, slowly, awkwardly, they looked away. Victoria hugged me stiffly. Glad you could make it, she said, but her eyes said something else entirely. I sat at the end of the table. People talked around me, not to me. When I tried joining conversations, responses came in polite one-word answers before the subject changed. Halfway through dinner, I went to the bathroom. When I returned, I heard my name. Honestly, don't know why she came, Victoria said quietly. Diane said she's been really struggling. Maybe we should have told her to stay home. Is it true she made up a pregnancy? Someone asked. I don't know. But Diane's known Marcus since he was born. She wouldn't lie. I stood frozen in the doorway. My own sister. Believing a woman she barely knew over me. I grabbed my purse and left without saying goodbye. Later that night, I tried calling my mom, my sister, even my aunt. Every call went to voicemail. That's when I checked my phone settings and found it. My calls to family numbers had been blocked. Not from their end. From mine. Someone had gone into my phone and blocked my own family. I started digging through old emails and messages. The more I searched, the more I found, or rather, didn't find. I'd been removed from family group chats months ago. The family trip to the beach last summer that was supposedly cancelled. I found photos on Victoria's Instagram. They'd all gone. Without me. Birthday parties I wasn't told about. Holiday dinners I thought were postponed. They'd all happened. Just without me. Every digital footprint told the same story. I'd been slowly, methodically erased from my own family. And nobody noticed. Or maybe they did notice, and nobody cared enough to question it. I remembered now, Marcus always offered to handle family communications. To take the stress off me. He'd manage group chat responses, RSVP to events, send holiday cards. I thought he was being helpful. He was building walls. I found a message from my mom from 8 months ago, asking why I missed Easter dinner. I'd never seen it. Marcus must have deleted it before I could read it. His response, sent from my phone, Bella's not feeling well. Don't worry about her. The email arrived at work on a Tuesday. My supervisor, Mrs. Patterson, called me into her office. Her expression was tight, uncomfortable. Bella, we received a complaint about you. She slid a printed email across her desk. The complaint was anonymous but detailed. It claimed I had emotional outbursts at work, that I made colleagues uncomfortable with unstable behavior, that I'd been spreading false stories about personal tragedies for sympathy. This isn't true, I said. My voice sounded small even to myself. The email included specific dates and incidents. Mrs. Patterson looked pained. Bella, I've never seen you act inappropriately. But this person seems to have detailed records. What dates? She showed me. Each incident was a day I'd come to work after crying. After fighting with Marcus. After being excluded from something else I didn't know about until after it happened. Someone had been watching me. Recording my grief. Turning my pain into evidence of instability. Who sent this? I asked. The email came from a generic account. But... Mrs. Patterson hesitated. The sender mentioned they were a family friend concerned for your well-being. Diane. It had to be. The night of the miscarriage came back to me in pieces, sharp and cutting. I'd been in bed, reading, when the cramping started. It felt wrong, deep, pulling, like something was tearing. Marcus, I'd whispered, shaking his shoulder. Something's wrong. He'd barely opened his eyes. You're probably just anxious. Take some Tylenol. No, it's bad. Really bad. I pulled back the covers. Blood. So much blood. It's probably just your period coming early. Don't overreact. I'd stumbled to the bathroom, pain making me dizzy. More blood. Clots. I knew, somehow, what was happening. Marcus. I'd called out. I'm bleeding. Something's really wrong. Jesus, Bella, I have work in the morning. He'd turned away from me, pulling the pillow over his head. Go to the ER if you're that worried. I'd called 911 alone, sitting on our bathroom floor, bleeding onto towels. The paramedics found me conscious but shaking. They'd asked where my husband was. I'd lied. Said he was traveling for work. The truth was worse, he was 20 feet away, asleep. Cleaning out the closet, I found it, a leather journal with Marcus's name embossed on the cover. It was tucked behind his winter coats, hidden but not well enough. My hands shook as I opened it. The first page had an inscription in Diane's handwriting, for tracking patterns. Love, Mom. The entry started 3 years ago. Right after we got married. Day 43, be cried because I worked late. Manipulative behavior. Day 67, be upset I spent Christmas Eve with Mom. Controlling tendencies. Day 92, be asking about finances. Suspicious and invasive. Every normal reaction to his emotional absence had been documented as evidence of my instability. Every time I'd asked for connection, he'd written it down as me being needy. Every tear, every request for his time, every moment of normal human emotion, catalogued like symptoms of a disease. The most recent entry was from 2 weeks ago. B claims she's pregnant. Conveniently timed with Mom suggesting separation. Likely manipulation tactic. He'd never believed I was pregnant. He thought I'd made it up. And when I lost the baby, he thought I'd made that up too. I ran into Pastor Williams at the grocery store. He'd married Marcus and me 3 years ago. His smile faltered when he saw me. Bella, he said carefully. How are you doing? I've been better. He shifted his weight, looking uncomfortable. Marcus came to see me last month. He's concerned about you. My stomach dropped. What did he say? He said you've become possessive. That you don't want him spending time with family or friends. That you've isolated him. Pastor Williams's expression was kind but cautious. He said you need control, not connection. That's not true. He seemed very sincere. His mother was with him. She's worried too. Of course she was there. Diane was always there, always managing the narrative, always one step ahead. Did he mention I had a miscarriage? I asked quietly. Pastor Williams blinked. He said you'd been having trouble separating reality from anxiety. That you might say things that feel true to you but aren't accurate. I set down my shopping basket and walked out. I started recording conversations. Not for revenge, I wasn't thinking about revenge yet. I needed proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that these conversations were really happening. When Diane came over that Thursday, I had my phone recording in my pocket. Bella, honey, we need to talk. She sat down at my kitchen table, folding her hands like a concerned therapist. Marcus is struggling. You're putting so much pressure on him. I lost our baby. Sweetie, Marcus told me about that story. It's concerning that you're still holding on to it. Her voice dripped with false sympathy. These delusions you're having. They're not delusions. I have medical records. Records can be misinterpreted when you're not in a stable state of mind. She reached across the table for my hand. I pulled away. Soon, she said, her voice dropping, he'll see you for what you really are. And then you'll have to face reality. That night, I played the recording back 3 times. Her words were even colder without her smile to soften them. The comment came during Sunday dinner at Diane's house. I debated not going, but Marcus insisted. For appearances. Diane was serving dessert when I mentioned, carefully, that I was still recovering physically. From what? She asked innocently. The miscarriage. She set down the pie server with a sharp click. Bella, this fantasy needs to stop. It's not a fantasy. You're desperate for attention. I understand that. But involving an imaginary baby? She shook her head sadly. It's disturbing. Marcus said nothing. Just stared at his plate. That's when she muttered it, so quietly I almost missed it. Maybe that child was spared. It would have been raised by a wreck. The room went silent. Cold fury flooded through me. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. Get out of my life. My voice didn't sound like mine, it was steel. Get out, and don't ever speak to me again. Diane's eyes widened. For the first time, she looked uncertain. You don't speak to my mother, Marcus started. Your mother just said my dead baby was lucky to be dead. I grabbed my purse. I'm done. I left Marcus there. With his mother. Where he'd always wanted to be. The truth came 3 days later. I'd been staying with Amy, who finally believed me after hearing Diane's recorded comments. Marcus texted asking to talk. We met at the park near our apartment. Neutral ground. He looked tired. Maybe guilty. I couldn't tell anymore. I need you to understand something, he said quietly, not meeting my eyes. I didn't want to be a father. Not with you. The words hit like physical blows. When you told me you were pregnant, I panicked. I told Mom, and she said. He trailed off. She said what? That maybe it would solve itself. That first trimester miscarriages are common. He finally looked at me. I didn't think she meant. I didn't think it would actually happen. My blood turned to ice. What did you do? Nothing directly. But I didn't. I didn't help. When you needed me, I made it harder. I thought if you were stressed enough. He couldn't finish. You wanted me to miscarry. I wanted a way out without being the villain. I stood up. My legs felt weak, but my resolve was steel. You got what you wanted. I left that night. Took only what fit in my car. No plan. No money saved. Just silence. Amy's couch became my refuge. She never asked for rent, never made me feel like a burden. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. No walking on eggshells. No monitoring my emotions. No bracing for the next attack. I cried one morning over spilled coffee, just cried because it was the last straw after everything. Amy hugged me and said, "It's okay. You're allowed to be upset about small things too." That's when I broke completely. Because someone finally gave me permission to feel. Why didn't you ever tell me how bad it was? Amy asked later, holding my hand. I thought you'd just gotten busy. I thought you ghosted our friendship. Marcus always said he'd tell you I called. That you were busy when I tried to reach out. Bella, I never got any messages from you. Not for over a year. We sat in silence, processing how completely I'd been isolated. How thoroughly my life had been controlled. I'm done being small for people who hate me, I said finally. Amy squeezed my hand. Good. I wrote 3 letters that week. One to the baby I lost. One to Diane. One to myself. The first letter was short, I would have loved you. I'm sorry they didn't. The second letter was pages long, every hurt, every manipulation, every moment of cruelty. I didn't hold back. I called her every name I'd never had the courage to say aloud. The third letter was hardest. You deserved better. You deserved to be believed. You deserved to be loved. I took all 3 letters to Amy's fireplace. I lit them one by one, watching the paper curl and blacken. As the smoke rose, I felt something shift inside me. I'm done being small for people who hate me, I said aloud to the flames. Amy appeared in the doorway with wine and tissues. Good, she said firmly. Because you were never small. They just made you think you were. We drank the wine straight from the bottle and talked until sunrise. Filing for divorce was simpler than I expected. I hired a lawyer who specialized in emotional abuse cases. She listened to my recordings, read the journal entries I'd photographed, reviewed the documented isolation. This is one of the clearest cases I've seen, she said. You have everything you need. I didn't want his money. Didn't want the apartment. Didn't want anything except freedom. Marcus tried to fight it anyway. Not because he wanted me, because he wanted to win. His lawyer argued I was mentally unstable. My lawyer played the recordings. His lawyer claimed I was vindictive. My lawyer presented the journal. His lawyer suggested I'd fabricated evidence. My lawyer provided hospital records, dated texts, and testimony from the nurse who'd asked that devastating question. The judge granted the divorce in 6 weeks. Marcus sent me a single text afterward, "You ruined us." I blocked his number and never looked back. Diane showed up at my new job 3 months later. I'd found work at a small marketing firm, a fresh start. But somehow, she'd found me. She came into the lobby crying, mascara running, hands shaking. "Please, Bella. I need to talk to you." Security called me down. I stood in the lobby, arms crossed, heart pounding. "I never meant to hurt you," she sobbed. "I was trying to protect my son. I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. Please forgive me." I looked at this woman who'd systematically destroyed my life. Who'd poisoned my family against me. Who'd celebrated the death of my baby. "You meant every second of it," I said calmly. "You just never thought I'd leave." "I'm sorry." "You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry Marcus looks bad now. You're not sorry for what you did to me." She reached for my arm. I stepped back. "Security," I called calmly. "Please escort her out." As they led her away, still crying, I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Just emptiness where she used to live in my head. My therapist's office became my sanctuary. Dr. Reeves specialized in trauma and family systems. She never looked shocked by what I told her. Just sad. "You didn't just lose a husband," she said during our 4th session. "You lost a false version of your entire life." That's when I started crying. Not pretty, quiet tears. Ugly, gasping sobs that felt like they'd never end. I cried for an hour straight while Dr. Reeves sat quietly, handing me tissues, never rushing me. I cried for the baby I lost. For the family that believed lies over truth. For the years I spent thinking I was the problem. When I finally stopped, exhausted and hollow, Dr. Reeves said something that changed everything. "You survived. That's not nothing." I went home and slept for 12 hours. When I woke up, I felt lighter, like I'd purged poison from my system. The texts came for weeks. Marcus, Diane, even my mother, all trying different tactics. Guilt. Anger. False apologies. Promises to change. I didn't answer. Didn't read past the first few words. Just deleted and blocked. My therapist called it protecting my peace. I called it survival. Victoria sent a long message saying she'd been manipulated too, that Diane had poisoned her against me, that she was sorry. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to forgive. Part of me wanted my sister back. But a bigger part remembered her laughing at Diane's lies. Remembered her calling me exhausting. Remembered every time she chose a stranger's word over mine. I blocked her too. Some people call that harsh. I call it necessary. The Facebook message came 6 months after the hospital. Hi Bella. You probably don't remember me. I'm Karen, the nurse who took care of you. I've thought about you so many times. I prayed you found the support you needed. I'm so glad you made it. I stared at the message through tears. She remembered me. After hundreds of patients, she remembered. I wrote back, thank you for asking that question. It saved my life. She responded immediately, you saved your own life, honey. I just saw what you couldn't see yet. We messaged for an hour. She told me she'd been a nurse for 30 years, and I was one of the patients she couldn't forget. Something about the emptiness in my eyes. The way I apologized for bleeding. I knew someone had made you think you didn't deserve care, she wrote. I'm glad you figured out they were wrong. I cried, not from pain this time. From being seen. From being remembered. From mattering. I wrote my story and posted it online. I didn't plan for it to go viral. I just needed to say the words, needed them out of my body. The essay was long, 3,000 words about isolation, manipulation, and survival. About being erased from your own life. About losing a baby alone. I hit post and closed my laptop. By morning, it had 500 shares. By afternoon, 3,000. By evening, news outlets were asking to interview me. The comments flooded in. This was my marriage. This was my mother-in-law. This was my life, word for word. Women sent me messages, hundreds of them, sharing their own stories. Each one was different but the same, patterns of control disguised as care, isolation disguised as protection. I read every single message. Cried over most of them. Responded when I could. And for the first time since the hospital, I didn't feel alone. My birthday arrived 1 year after everything fell apart. I woke up in my small apartment, nothing fancy, but mine. No one to walk on eggshells around. No one monitoring my emotions or cataloging my tears. A knock at the door. I opened it to find Amy and 7 other women I'd met online through my essay. They carried balloons, cake, and gifts wrapped in bright paper. Surprise, they shouted. We crammed into my tiny living room. These women who'd been strangers months ago now felt like family. We'd held each other through divorces, custody battles, restraining orders. We'd celebrated small victories and mourned terrible losses. They sang happy birthday off-key. I blew out the candles, making the same wish I'd made for months, peace. Later, after cake and laughter and stories, Amy pulled me aside. Remember that nurse's question? She asked. Don't you have any family or friends? I looked around my crowded apartment. At these women who'd shown up for me. Who believed me. Who saw me. Turns out, I said, smiling through happy tears, I do. I just had to find them after the wrong ones left. We raised our glasses in a toast, to survival, to truth, to chosen family. And for the first time in years, I felt whole.